What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the debut album by J. Cole. Basically, this product is called Cole World, the Sideline Story, and it came out in the fall of 2011. So the thing about this particular product is this is part of the Rock Nation label as far as those pitches going to happen. So I think across like 2010, early 2011, J. Cole approximately, maybe he was on the Rock Nation label in like the late 2000s, but this particular album right off the bat has the blissful budget and overall star-studdedness that just packs pretty much like Drake-esque within the quality of just right off the bat having that immediateness about it. So some good pitches on there as far as that particular gonna go. Some good concepts. This was kind of a heralded project around the early 2010s, so on the come up as far as those pitches gonna happen. J. Cole had a series of mixtapes that dropped between like the late 2000s. I reviewed one of which back in like the winter as far as those pitches gonna happen, which was like Friday Night Lights as far as those pitches gonna happen. Pretty rock solid mixtape. Gonna get that one in particular. I think I'd probably enjoy that one a little bit more than I did back then. I gave that like I want to say like an 8.5. I don't remember what I gave it. I think I gave it over an 8 out of 10. But just within the pitch, this is pretty much like an early 2010s classic. I had to say just within the appeal. Definitely a very noteworthy type project. And I missed this particular era of J. Cole. Now I don't know his full bound as much because I haven't listened to J. Cole project since probably about this one or Born Sinner as far as those pitches gonna happen. But I do have to say that, I remember this project from back in the day. It was a big deal back in 2011, just like Big Sean, Wiz Khalifa, some of those type folks. But it's just kind of the pitch that the more looking back on this particular project, I think the impact that it particularly made and is the aspect of like how the splash that it made around that particular time was pretty classic just within the appeal because he basically was like probably the 2010s rendition of what Jay-Z kind of was like in his 20s back in the 90s when you had albums like Reasonable Doubt and some of that type fare. J. Cole's definitely a pretty excellent lyricist on here. Nowadays he's kind of in like the usual debate about the big three in terms of rap music with other folks like Kendrick and Drake, and in some instances like Tyler the Creator, some of those type folks that I had to say. But this is one of the albums that helped kick off like that particular movement. Pretty good type fare. Yeah, though there are some other mixtapes by J. Cole I'm gonna have to get to, like the warm up, some of those type ones. I think there was like a 2007 mixtape as well. He dropped at least three before getting to this particular album. But this, I like the concept of that about this particular album because it very much does have like a basketball-esque kind of atmosphere, kind of on the come up of like an up and coming kind of basketball player, something of like the concepts of just making it in like the biz and getting towards like the concept of the initial kind of spotlight of getting to the top as far as those pitches can happen. I just like the kind of basketball S type flavor. There was an album I reviewed recently, Macklemore's The Heist, that had the same type of appeal. I feel like Macklemore kind of had this same sort of like slumish kind of delivery of just the come up of just kind of more in the grit kind of grind type stuff of just like kind of more workaday type makeshift. Not so much hustlers makeshift like you would get from Waka Flocka, Yo Gotti, some of those type folks, but just more in like a kind of middle class suburban type aspect. Macklemore, J. Cole, some of these type folks. I'd say Mac Miller, particular folks like that kind of had this particular aspect. It's basically like Kanye West, were he to have come up in like the early 2010s as far as those pitches going to happen with like an album just within that sort of appeal. So it has similarities to like the College Dropout, but just a little bit more sports oriented within the pitch behind it, a little bit more within the tone of just having that grit of just feeling like a young LeBron James or a young kind of a young LeBron James or a young Allen Iverson, some of those type folks just within the fair behind it. So it's an excellent type pitch, kind of get that. It's very much like the kind of come up with that. But I also like J. Cole's particular attitude on this particular product. I do think he kind of has like a certain cocky kind of arrogance that's pretty awesome kind of get. I remember J. Cole from before he kind of settled down a little bit with like 2014 Forest Hills Drive. So I remember songs of him like Who Dat and Can't Get Enough and some of those type of ones, and like other ones on there like Mr. Nice Watch, some of that particular type of feel. I do miss some of that type of spices. I don't know as full bound if J. Cole still has like that appetite like he did back like the early 2010s. I think there was some of that, maybe not as full blown on like Friday Night Lights, but I definitely feel like it had that relative appeal on here. I do miss that kind of hunger just of him being more of like an ass clown as far as those pitches can happen. So it's just a good concept for that. But yeah, this classic album here. Now I realize that the deluxe is going to get like on the verge of being a classic score because there is one song. The iTunes deluxe has two songs on here, and out of those two, I wound up recommending one. So it just barely misses classic in terms of the deluxe, but the standard edition, including the intro, which is a surprising highlight that I didn't listen to as much back in the day. This basically would be, 12 out of 15 is pretty excellent type fare, or 13 out of 16 would be some excellent type fare to kind of get. So this is like a classic just on the standard edition. But so we'll go ahead and talk about this here. There were 4 singles off this project. The first single surprisingly has over 1 billion plays on Spotify. So this album definitely got a series of accolades. I don't know if this was as full bound as much like a streaming highlight. It was kind of a little bit before that when the pitch of it when it came out. But I think the popularity of this is just kind of a resonative I don't know if that's a word. Is a resonated project. I want to say resonative, but this resonated. This project resonated throughout the early 2010s and carried over throughout the 2010s as he developed into like the big three conversations, pitches like that. But workout is like a summer weaving. I would definitely feel like here just a basic kind of neighborhood glaze that had to say just a half club, kind of half local travelers kind of get to snack run some of that type here, getting like some snack cakes, some of that type of stuff, checks, mix some of that good stuff, to smoke a joint type candor, basic kind of flirty type vibes just out and about in like the summer heat and pitches like that summer evening heat. It's basically like a Kanye West type bop and like the college dropout late registration type days. Just a little bit more summer oriented typeness. Just more kind of wife beater type music and Jersey type music. Just in like late July, August, some pitches like that. I'd say within the tone. Pretty much like the more localized type version. Really enjoyed the concept of Can't Get Enough. That's a real excellent type one. But that one just feels more of like just like very sublime kind of like vacay type music. But this one's just a little bit more around the neighborhood. Maybe you have work within the next couple of days. It's a good tone to just pick up some brews or smoke a zigzag, something like that. Flirt with some BCs. This is in the tone. Can't Get Enough with Trey Songz is the second single. And this is one of the debut songs I remember from J. Cole. Excellent type pitch. Get this one. This is like a great sublime kind of vacay beachside fun to kind of get off this one. Just be perfect like margarita and island type music to kind of have here. Get a tan, barbecue some of those. Get a tan and barbecue some of those type pitches kind of have here. Just great summer energy just within the tone behind it. Just pretty much, despite the fact that this album came out in the fall, it does have like some nice summer gems on here just within the aspect of just having like some good enjoy. Now, I don't want to say this album is a misnomer, but there are not tons of projects for like super. There are not tons of songs on this project for like this sort of turn up on here. Workout and Can't Get Enough for like a nice 1-2 punch. And there are some other club bops on here like Mr. Nice Watch and Cold World that I'd say. But for the most part, this is kind of a more balanced type album. Basically like something quality that you get from like a classic album, just within the aspect of like Eminem Slim Shady LP or like 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying, one of those type ones that just kind of has a more balanced breakfast type tone within the pitch behind it. But it does have some social moments on here, but it also has the personal songs. But luckily J. Cole nails these particular moments. It's a little bit more balanced, but basically all four of the singles minus Nobody's Perfect has some degree of social spiffiness towards them. But Can't Get Enough is a real gleaming highlight for some vacay type fare. Mr. Nice Watch is the third single. Now for this to be on his debut album to get a Jay-Z feature is pretty excellent type fare just within that concept. It's a very litty concept for Jay-Z on this particular song. It fits pretty easily for J. Cole, but just the concept of Jay-Z being on this sort of trendiness is pretty aspected. Definitely because not too many folks are getting features from him around this particular time. But this is like a jiving kind of awake nightclub pizzazz kind of get here. Just a litty kind of dubstep type song and trendy for Jay-Z. Like I was saying, it's like some flashy kind of glamour kind of have. Pretty much one of the more glamorous type ones off this particular product. I'd have to say just a good type of appeal. Originally, I was thinking that this album's going to be more like this as far as like the past type fare. I feel it's had some good moments, but I do like the pizzazz. This is easily kind of Friday, Saturday night, Thursday night type music kind of get within that fare, but it works for like the tone of just J. Cole within that reminiscent type sense of how he was like in his more hungry type days. That I'd say it's a good pitch, kind of get some of that. It's a good, nice one to kind of be brash and just kind of step out and just stun a little bit, have some flex type music just within that tone. Just real nice pizzazz type one. Just great for the early 2010s, real standout type one. Then Nobody's Perfect with Missy Elliott's pretty nice pitch. Now, this was a good snag for J. Cole around this particular time just because Missy Elliott had kind of taken several years off and not too many folks had really hit her up for features in like the late 2000s, much past like 2007, 2008 to about even like as far out as like the mid 2010s as far as those pitches kind of happen. So it's just good tone, kind of get that. But it's like a sunny kind of late morning wake up. I would definitely feel like here just some hotel kind of dredge and brunch banter to kind of have for some of that. It's kind of a woozy kind of hop to it, Gem kind of gets. It's just kind of the concept of just dreary after effects. It's kind of the tone behind it, maybe a little bit hungover pitches like that. It's a good concept to just look through the blinds and see the sunshine in your face for us. Those pitch kind of happen. Go get some grits, pancakes, biscuits, some of that type of air just be able to have. It's a real nice one. Some more dreary kind of summertime music. So all of these singles basically have like a good summer pizzazz about them. But I do feel like there's more portions of this album that have more, like I don't want to say full blown bound to winter, but it's just kind of the concept that the singles have more of like the social bite towards it. But this is like a balanced type project. This is like a balanced type project to get some of that just within that tone. But so I do see similarities between this project and Friday Night Lights. I feel like Friday Night Lights was definitely a pretty, from what I remember, that particular project that was definitely kind of like a moody type project. Just definitely had some personal type songs on there that just kind of were dredging, just kind of had like that makeshift, kind of similar to Kanye West in like the 2000, the Graduation trilogy days, just within the picture, just having that beleagueredness about them. I remember they were kind of sullen, but it's just within the tone. There are some moments like that on here, but it kind of lightens up a bit. It's not quite as much of like the the kind of more dank type tones of some of those type ones within the pitch, of just being more morose. This is not as much a full blown morose, but it does have some moments. Like I feel like Nobody's Perfect is somewhat like that, just a little bit kind of chippered, haphazard. Lost Ones is kind of like that, but for the most part, not really. It's not quite as dim, I'd have to say. But yeah, so basically, out of like the 18 songs, including like the iTunes Deluxe, which has the songs Daddy's Little Girl and then Who Dat on there, which I do recommend getting the iTunes Deluxe if it's still available just for Who Dat, because that's a pretty excellent song. But there's 4 songs I don't recommend out of the total 18 song package. Not, but it narrows it down to 17 because the interlude is not really a song. So out of 17 songs, I wound up recommending 13. Really, I would say 14. Actually, it would be 4 out of 17 songs. I wound up recommending 14. Well, I forget how many songs are on here. I think it's either 17 or 18, but there's only really 4 songs I don't recommend. So just to be able to say that. But one of these 18 songs is an intro that's not really a full blown song. So it's just kind of within the pitch behind it. But the 4 songs, this would be easier to say the 4 songs I don't recommend. So those would be Dollar in a Dream 3, Never Told, God's Gift, and then Daddy's Little Girl. So basically those particular songs. Dollar in a Dream was just kind of a kind of intro type one that you would get, just like the opening of like a movie, as it kind of has like that jazzy kind of blurriness about it, but it just didn't pull out the vibes nearly as well. I feel like compared to like the Glimmer and the overall kind of moroseness of intro, it just felt like kind of a different tandem to kind of go along with that. Just was not as emphatic. Probably, I mean, it was good to kind of have that to be like for a kickoff, but I felt like the energy was just not nailed with like the crispness as far as how it did it. God's Gift was kind of like a more gritty type one, something unlike the Nas and Mobb Deep kind of grittiness of like an East Coast kind of traverse just within the pitch behind it, more city hop type fare, but just didn't nail it as well as this was trying to be like a lyrical type one. Not like it wasn't a lyrical type one, but just the aspect of the instrumental is just not as nailing as far as that pitch kind of went for it. I mean, I guess J. Cole was originally going to have Jay-Z on this particular song. This is the song that J. Cole wanted Jay-Z on to be on this one. Probably would have fit Jay-Z on this particular song, but I'm glad he wound up on Mr. Nice Watch as far as this pitch going to happen. Just didn't see as much like kind of viciousness about this particular song as far as that. It's not like it's a bad song, it's just within the pitch. But the Never Told is just kind of a personal type one that just didn't nail the energy. I feel like some of these type ones like Breakdown, Lost Ones, Nobody's Perfect just nailed it a lot better. It's kind of had the tone of just not having as much. I mean, there just are a couple of dud-like productions on here that just don't jump off the page as much full blown. But like I was saying, the standard edition of this album's going to get a 10 out of 10. 12 out of 15 on here. Basically, to really say that there's only 3 songs on the standard edition that I don't recommend. So just being able to say this as usual when I say that I give the album 3 songs before it doesn't get a 10 out of 10, it would be the fact that recommending 12 out of 15 songs in here would be a 10 out of 10. I look within the pitch, but that's the tone. And then the other song that's on the deluxe edition, Daddy's Little Girl, within that fare is just kind of one. There's another personal type one just within the pitch, but just I feel like the aspect behind it, this is more of like a concise type topic as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just shout out to women who are kind of being taken advantage of within the pitch behind it, but just didn't nail the aspect as much full blunts like the interest. I just feel like a song like some of these songs like Lost Ones and Nobody's Perfect just nailed those vibes a little bit better. I mean, I like the concept of the direction of that particular song, but just the way that the composition of that song kind of was going just didn't nail it as well. But the deluxe edition with the 2 extra songs on the iTunes edition gets a 9.5 out of 10. I feel like 13 out of 17 is basically 13 out of 17 is basically all but on the cusp of being a classic. So I just would have to say within that fair. So that's the pitch behind it. But yeah, standard edition gets a 10. So in terms of like this particular album, there is one song I'm not going to talk about on here, which is In the Morning, which was also on J. Cole's 2010 mixtape Friday Night Lights. It's the same song within the pitch. Very excellent song. Do appreciate that one quite a bit. Just so another woozy hotel type music kind of get within that tone. Just real nice brunch type fare, Starbucks type commerce as far as those pitch kind of having real nice workaday makeshift, just excellent type one in there. But yeah, I'm not going to give that like the standard description because I talked about it before, but it is another highlight. Just either, I mean, it's easier just to get that particular mixtape, but it is on this album as well. Yeah, we'll get to some of these. So Cold World is a real excellent type one. It's like a ritzy kind of night venue bite about this particular song. It's like a little brother to Mr. Nice Watch, I would definitely feel like. Pretty fiery and lyrical, I'd have to say about this one. An easy kind of dance hit. So there's not really a ton of these dance songs on this particular album, but this is a nice one to kind of get for some of that just good, nice, shake your ass in the club, get crunk a little bit, drink slosh and pitches like that. Good concept for some of that night fury as far as those pitches can happen. I feel like J. Cole probably could have went in 2 directions with this particular album. He definitely could have made more songs like Mr. Nice Watch, Workout, and Cold World as far as those pitches can happen. It's just within the tone, just getting some good gems on there. But I'd say that's about, for the most part, most of the turn-up songs on this particular album. But real nice appeal of one on here would be nice theme of a song on this particular album would be Lights Please. It's like a peppy and kind of starry blue collar makeshift kind of get within that tone. This feels like a basketball dreams type song kind of have within that pitch. This is what I was talking about with some of those type ones. It's feeling like the ambitions of folks who want to be like the next LeBron, the next kind of Zion Williamson, some of those type of folks just within the pitch behind it. Good type pitch for that. Just dope ambition type song kind of get within that fair, I'd have to say. Some of those type pitches for that. Just real nice kind of this starry, real nice, just peppy and starry eyed type one to kind of get for like some good motivation just within the pitch of like kind of more blue collar type step to it just within the tone. Just not so much like mixtape type hustle, but just within the grind, just getting towards it like a more traditional middle class type sense, I'd have to say. There's another nice one. I'm trying to Sideline Story is a real quality one. I do like this one. It's like a diluted, kind of dreary daytime bar visit of a song, kind of get within that tone. Just a basic kind of afternoon commerce, I'd have to say, and workaday kind of in between type fare to kind of have. Just some good, like, extra time type song kind of get. Just visiting a bar, just getting like a basic beer or something like that. Flirting with the bartender, chatting with a homie bartender, pitches like that. Just some good concepts. Standard out and about, just within the tone of just having some extra time and just having some basic kind of fun, just in a more kind of almost dreary and somewhat sullen type aspect, just within the tone behind it. Just a reflective type song. Good, nice personal extra kind of rumination on there. Lost Ones is a quality one. It's like a down on your luck kind of mellow day, I'd have to say about this particular song. Just some basic traffic and rumination kind of have, just to keep your head up, and kind of a keep your head up for like Bay type tune to kind of get within that tone. Just basically talking about miscarriages, pitches like that, just within the tone behind it. Just kind of keep your girl's head up, pitches like that. It's kind of a good concept of just some kind of optimism just within a pitch of a more kind of standard kind of, it's kind of a good companion for like some B-leaguer type times just within a workaday type commerce, just within the pitch behind it. Just some more kind of this evening dredge of traffic just within the pitch. So it is some decent, so some pretty rock solid makeshift kind of get within that. Breakdown is an excellent one. It's like a bleary kind of emphatic, kind of personal tune kind of get here. Very homely type feel, but it nails it pretty well. It's like a good lackadaisical day to kind of have, just get lunch and gab pitches like that. Just a simple kind of one. Really not within the concept of getting torn out some pitches like that. Not even like a Bay or Fuck Buddy type song pitches like that. Just within the tone, just having some good times. Maybe almost like a family song pitches like that. Just enjoy. Basic kind of embrace social gap just within a more traditional type fashion and just standard healthy kind of commotion. This is a personal song that J. Cole nails pretty well. So this has a real nice beat on here. I think that's part of the emphasis as to why this song works as well as it does. I mean, within the tone, it's a good, these sorts of personal songs definitely work, but they work even better when they have some emphatic productions on there. So it's a good pitch. Rise and Shine's a quality one. Now this is another night venue song, but it's just not as much like a dance club song. I'd have to say just within the pitch behind it. It's like a sprawling and powerful kind of night venue atmosphere to kind of get here. Just definitely balcony type music, just a little bit more glossed up kind of commute. This is something that Rick Ross would kind of do just more in like the early 2010s. Reminds me of like the God Forgives I Don't type days. I forget the actual song. Also reminds me of like Kanye West Monster, one of those type pitches from like his 2010 album My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Some of those type pitches just feels real emphatic. This kind of feels like a song that Jay-Z could have been on as well. This real emphatic kind of something that, like, yeah, this feels like something Rick Ross did. It was like a song that Rick Ross and French Montana did off of Self-Made Volume 2. That's pretty similar to this one. Just real emphatic and operatic type tone. Just real looming type one that works. Intro is a nice one as well. Really like the fact that this intro hit as heavily. It's a real nice secret snag kind of get here. It's like a sullen and quality kind of album kickoff, I would say, about this one. Just a very pungent, bittersweet flavor to get about this particular song, and it nails it pretty well. Nails the vibe definitely within this particular song as far as the pitch kind of goes. This is kind of the concept. This is like a throwback almost like Friday Night Lights, just within some of that sullen type pitch as far as getting some of that moody factor. There's not a ton of songs like this on here apart from In the Morning, which was also on Friday Night Lights, but it's just within the pitch. Maybe Lost Ones, Nobody's Perfect, but within the tone you get the pitch behind it. But it does have some of that kind of almost like this kind of overcast day, kind of this more dark clouds type pitch as far as those pitches kind of happen with it. And then Who Dat is a quality one. Like I was saying, this is on the iTunes Deluxe. Definitely worth picking up as far as those pitch kind of happen. It's like a buzzing kind of movie soundtrack like step out to kind of get here. This works as like a pretty good Who Dat works as like a pretty good nightclub song, kind of in between something like Cold World or Mr. Nice Watch, and then like a song like Rise and Shine, I'd have to say in particular. It's just kind of a concept. It has the powerful looming typeness. It's a good foot tapper to kind of get with like some of that just more balcony type music step out, but just not quite as like dubstep and more ground levels like Mr. Nice Watch or like Cold World, I'd have to say. But it is a nice emphatic type one. This feels like a companion to like a Denzel Washington movie. I would definitely have to say, it just feels like something that would be on one of those moments where he steps in like the bar and just it has like a cock to his walk as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just good concept of that. And it's like a glitzy type song, definitely. It's a pretty raw song to kind of get in terms of the lyricism, I'd have to say. So it's just good tone for that. And this definitely probably should have been a song on like the standard edition, just replaced with like another song. But then I think that would have removed like the passion for getting the deluxe. But it is an excellent type fair just in the pitch behind it. So I think I covered every single song on here as far as those pitches kind of happen with like the songs to recommend within the tone behind it. So yeah, like I was saying, the standard edition without songs, Who Dat and Daddy's Little Girl gets a 10 out of 10. The deluxe edition with the two extra songs gets a 9.5 out of 10. Just virtually same sort of aspect, just within the tone behind it. Nails it for the most part, just within the pitch, just within the tone. So in terms of the social score, I'm gonna go ahead and give. That's kind of tricky. I think I'll give the social score like an 8.75. I want to say the aspect behind this project is pretty damn good within the pitch. It has some good gems on here for like some decent amount of step out within the tone behind it. The singles are all really nice to kind of have for some affability. Good social spark to kind of have for some of that. But I feel like in terms of the album cuts of like some extra type bops to kind of play around your pals and chicas with more bounce and just more liveliness about it, I'd have to say in particular. It is kind of a homely type product. It takes it back to like the college dropout and like late registration days of Kanye West with a little bit of Jay-Z from like his In My Lifetime volumes where he wasn't always stepping out and like with like the electro kind of dance pizzazz about it. But I kind of feel like some of these homely type ones, they do work on here, but in terms of like the social spark, I kind of feel like it just has more here and there type moments. But it does probably have at least 4 or 5, maybe even 6 type songs for like some relative type step out, but it's not as much of like a landslide as much as what probably maybe seen. But it is a classic within the relative pitch behind this, or at least on the pretty much 95, 99% classic within the tone behind it for the most aspect. But I'd say in terms of social score, it gets 8.75 just within that. But so in terms of the future, like J. Cole apparently has, so in terms of the future, like J. Cole is working on the fall off as far as those pitches can happen. I need to catch up with some J. Cole. I want to get to the warm up. Definitely that's on streaming services. I'm pretty glad for that. Just to have to check that project out as far as that particular kind of happens. Gonna get to some more of these. Gonna get to like Born Center, some more of these type albums kind of get within that pitch. But yeah, this is a classic here just within the pitch behind it. Real impactful kind of early 2010s highlight that this was very dynamic, did a lot of things right, very noteworthy within the times, very seminal type project to like the early 2010s. This overall aspect did just had the nutrients of some excellence here.